Welcome to the multi-part series, Creating and Leading Innovation Team. This is episode 2, How to Build Working Prototypes in 6 to 8 Weeks. I'm Wally Gustafson. I lead the Innovation and Artificial Intelligence team at Reese USA. Before we get started, let's look at the episode schedule in this series. In episode 1, we discussed the 8 traits of a successful innovation team member. Episode 2 today, how to build that working prototype in 6 to 8 weeks. In episode 3, moving a prototype into production. Episode 4, coaching your team. Episode 5, establishing your team as the team within the organization. And in episode 6, we'll recap the key takeaways from all 6 episodes. So let's get into prototyping. Let's start with idea generation. Before we can build a prototype, we need the ideas to fuel those activities. I'll walk you through how my team actively works on idea generation. We have 4 ways that we regularly generate innovation product ideas. First one is called innovation connections. Next, we have around you research. Third up is C-suite initiatives. And last up is AI seedling conversations. So let's start with innovation connections. Within months of being on the job, I started this program. It's a 2-part process. Part 1 is establishing relationships. And over the course of a 30-day period, an innovation lead and I met every single manager, director, and vice president in the central offices. We asked them about what they did on a daily basis, what their pain points are, and if they had any specific needs. We took notes, recapped the meetings, and then just looked for overall trends within sort of the pain points throughout the organization. And there were several overarching needs within the company, some of which led to an AI project that we're working on today. Others were simply needs that needed to be serviced to the right personnel. Not every problem is an innovation project problem. Getting out to meet potential stakeholders helps drive 2 important elements of the innovation process: idea generation and creating relationships. Those ultimately help establish your team as the team people want to reach out to when they have a problem. And we're going to spend time on that in episode 5. Part 2 of this process is maintaining and extending the relationships. These relationships won't mean much if you don't keep them, grow them, and expand them. We've tried a couple ways to create engagement. So we've essentially prototyped relationship building, and we've landed on what we call break time. 1 time a month, we invite anyone in the corporate office to come down to the innovation room at 3 p.m. for a free cookie. We have a large whiteboard on a wall in our room, and we pose a question on the wall and ask them to write down their response. Examples of questions could be, did you know that we still do it this way? Or did you know that we can't do blank? Some of the best ideas come from people in the trenches. Don't overlook these amazing resources that are right there at your fingertips. Next up in idea generation is around you research. This is really the simplest and easiest way to identify ideas, and it's something that anyone can do. Ideas are everywhere, and that's why I call it around you research. Literally keep your eyes open. I regularly share links with my team to new startups, LinkedIn stories, news articles, or even recaps of conversations I've had with people outside of our industry. Don't overcomplicate the idea generation process. Find inspiration in everyday life. The next source of ideas comes directly from the C-suite. Our CIO often comes to us directly with specific needs. We love these ideas for a couple reasons. 1 is they're pre-approved. 2 is we can start immediately. And 3, they have the eyes of everyone in the C-suite on what we're building. Finally, let's talk about what we call AI seedlings. My team will meet at least once a week in a longer format meeting where we go through what we're working on, problems, demos, lots of discussion just to keep us all engaged. 2 of those a month, we have what we call the AI seedling conversation. And every member of the team has to come with either a new technology, a new idea that we should at least discuss. These do not need to be fully formed thoughts or strategies because they're called seedlings. It's just something to get conversation going. And many times you'll find that I'll bring something to the team that really doesn't benefit us or doesn't fit into something we're doing, but it leads to a conversation that then takes us somewhere toward a project that we could ultimately end up prototyping. So let's quickly recap our idea generation process. We've got innovation connections. Just go create relationships within your organization. Around you research. Literally just look around you. What are you seeing that changes your world And how can you use that to apply to products you're building in your work life? C-suite, those are the best. They're pre-approved projects. And finally, AI seedlings. Have your team come to you with ideas on a regular basis. We cannot rely on the organization to lead change. That's our job. So we've got ideas. How do we prioritize what we turn into a prototype first? Well, the obvious answer is that the projects that are revenue and margin drivers get prioritized first. But let's pretend for a moment that all of the potential prototypes were of equal importance. We do something that's called solution stacking. Solution stacking refers to building tools that either build off of or complement each other. This creates a much more powerful message when prototypes align. Our team benchmark is to have 3 prototypes get approved and moved into production each fiscal year. That means our goal is to build around 8 prototypes a year. In a perfect world, the 3 approved prototypes would be connected in some way. An example for my team would be Post. It's a search service we built to serve the wider organization. Post's original role was to leverage parts of speech tagging, hence the term Post, to transform our e-commerce search experience. Post will also be used to improve a prior tool that we created called Scout and will play a very important role in an AI chatbot we're developing. When I'm able to sell a prototype that can be leveraged to influence multiple outcomes within the organization, I dramatically improve my chances of getting the concept approved. So next up is a process that we do that's called pre-mortems. You might have heard of a post-mortem. It's when you seek to understand why a project, a business, or even a living organism didn't survive. You take notes on the facts and attempt to use that information to avoid similar mistakes in the future. A pre-mortem, if you're not familiar with the term, is where we pretend that we went through the process of building a prototype and it completely failed. It's been thrown in the trash. And then we document every possible reason that we think that prototype could have failed. Can be as simple as we never finished it to a very complex project-specific reason. We then take those reasons and bake them into our planning process as a way to eliminate as many potential barriers as possible prior to starting the prototyping phase. Next step is determining who you're going to have work from your team on a particular prototype. Determining who will, and honestly, more importantly, who won't work on a prototype plays a big role in the overall success. One of the biggest reasons prototypes fail is just not having the right people on the team or not having the right person leading that prototyping project. Now, of course, the easiest way to build successful prototyping teams is just to have the right people on your team to begin with. Having a wide range of skill sets on your team will play a big role in your overall team success. And of course, it's going to be industry specific. So what's really important to my team might play no role in your specific industry. Now, if you don't have a diverse team, what you want to have is access to contractors with a diverse set of skills. Part of this sort of understanding who to put together comes from truly knowing your team. And I'm not talking about just about technical abilities. I'm talking about understanding their emotional, motivational, and attitudinal makeup. I cover how to get to know and coach your team in episode 4. Next up is the discovery phase. We typically spend 2 to 3 weeks in that discovery phase period, covering a lot of the basics. First up is defining the actual problem that needs to be solved. Do your stakeholders really know what the problem is, or are they really just trying to treat a symptom? Next up is determining the business benefit. Is this a must-have, a nice-to-have, or just a toy? As an innovation team, it's imperative to deliver tools that add value to the business. If your team only delivers shiny, fun objects, with really no business benefit, my guess is that team won't be around very long. We spend a lot of time working closely with stakeholders during this period. We want to understand what's currently in place, what they've maybe tried, and then making sure that what we build actually meets their needs. And during this process, we're going to look to see what's available in the market. Is there a tool that could solve this problem without my team even creating a new tool? We've been asked on several occasions to help solve a problem for a team, and discover during that discovery phase that an existing software tool already exists, and then our job is done. Next piece is really understanding what technologies need to be implemented. Do we want to use open source? Do we want to license tools? Or do we want to build a custom solution? I'll tell you that during the prototyping phase in particular, we default to open source. We want to minimize cost, accelerate progress, and leverage already proven tech wherever possible. Now, one issue that I've had to deal with from sort of a leadership standpoint quite often is getting my team to be willing to use existing solutions versus building a custom solution. That's often because they see their path to professional success tied to what they actually build. And it's our job as leaders to help them understand that the project team success leads to individual success. Next up, we're going to establish a roadmap. We'll use Jira and leverage Jira tickets for a Kanban approach. We're what you'd call agile light. I love the structure and visibility that goes into sprint planning, but we do not follow it strictly. Our number one goal is to always remain flexible. If we don't get to a specific task within a sprint, no problem. We just move it out. And quite often we'll find that tasks that we'd put maybe in a future sprint, we've got to pull forward. Now we get to the fun stage, prototype development. Our goal is to develop working, functioning prototypes in 4 to 6 weeks. Let's review the core strategies I've put in place to give us the best opportunity for success. First is deep plus wide. Please note that I said deep plus wide and not deep and wide. So what's the difference? Well, the chart that I'm going to show on the screen should make it easier to understand. We'll identify one capability within a prototype to build out fully, as if it were a productionized tool. Every potential skill option is built for that capability. We'll then develop a large set of capabilities with a very shallow set of skills. We do this to demonstrate how powerful the tool can be by going deep in one skill while demoing the potential reach of the tool by also going wide and shallow. An example would be if we wanted to create an image recognition tool, we could go all in on faucets. Make sure that the tool can identify almost every type of faucet, widespread, single handle, center set, pull down. Then we'd go really wide with a low level of skills for complementary items. For example, we can identify a sink, but we just can't tell you, is that a bathroom sink, a kitchen sink, utility sink? Last up, we deliver a world-class user experience. And for my team, this is non-negotiable. And I'm talking about both from how the tool works and also how the tool looks. Why would we do this? It's a prototype. Well, first, as an innovation team, we are going to fail way more often than any other team. We can't fail often and deliver average-looking, functioning prototypes. We've got to blow away our organization with everything we develop, even if it's not approved. We want them walking away saying, that team builds world-class tools. Second is there are a lot of really smart people that have trouble envisioning what a tool could be. So they're only going to see what you're showing them. We don't want a potential game-changing tool killed simply because a key stakeholder can't imagine what's possible. Let's recap what we learned today. First up is idea generation. It's not a single source. We talk to stakeholders, around you research, C-suite, and team-generated ideas. Next is solution stacking. Find ways to connect your tools to improve the overall impact of the family of tools that your team creates. This is going to help increase the possibility of getting them greenlit. Create a pre-mortem. Imagine the reasons your project failed, and then find ways to overcome those pitfalls and incorporate them into your planning. Next is get the team mix right. You've got to know your team well because who doesn't work on a project is as important as who does. Align skill sets to put everyone in a position to succeed. Next, we have the discovery process, 2 to 3 weeks. Define the problem. Does a solution already exist? Identify the technologies and build out your roadmap. Finally, prototype development, 4 to 6 weeks. Be focused, don't get distracted. Go deep plus wide. And in that wide, go shallow and deliver world-class user experiences. On paper, it might seem like we spend the majority of our time building prototypes, when in reality, behind the scenes, we're always working on idea generation, stakeholder relationships, and team building. Those are the little things that, when combined, give you the best chance for success. And that's it for episode 2, how to build working prototypes in 6 to 8 weeks. Join us next week for episode 3, moving your prototype into production. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.